I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, July the 23rd, brought to you in part by Fairpiece, a revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. Dr. Rodrigo researched the dairy industry at Cornell University for many years. Stress is a big impact on dairy performance. When he created the Farrah company, he was focused on a stress reliever. He found it with Fairpiece. For more information, go to fairpiece.com. Media has been alerted. I don't know if you noticed like I have, but this week there's been several stories about how high beef is, or it's at all-time record highs, or people can't afford beef anymore, and all this, and on network TV, even also on cable. Big stories in all kind of publications about the beef industry, and they're claiming that it's the smallest cow herd in 74 years and things like that. Well, we've been preaching that for a long time, but they're just now getting the message. And like I always say, when the town drunk tells you, man, this beef's getting pretty high, or these cattle are getting pretty smoky high, it may be time to take a look and back off. But we've got a lot of bullishness in this already all-time record high and overbought market here. And your nearby live cattle contracts need to catch up with cash, and they're still lingering way back behind. They've got a lot of ground to pick up. We're going to be in August here before you know it. This cattle on feed report is setting up to be bullish. I don't know for sure, but my gosh, they've got those numbers way up there. We'll take a look at it here in a minute, what your estimates are, but they've got it set up to be bullish. The biannual cattle inventory report's going to come out. They didn't have one of them last year. I think that could be more confirmation that we're tight on supplies. Everything kind of looking to be bullish here. Trump apparently has got a deal done with Japan, $550 billion investment, and they were talking about the ag products, which they're a top 2, if not top 10 customer of most of our ag products. They're even going to be buying or opening their markets up to vehicles and all that at a 15% tariff. But a lot of this stuff looks like it could be bullish as we go forward. And then if we do get a bullish cattle on feed report, if the fat cattle market hangs anywhere close to steady, but lacks going down one more week there, I tell you what, it's set up to be a boon here. It could go up and gain so much ground that it might trip every trigger that there is for overbought. Of course, that's always something you got to look at. But man, things are looking good here middle of the week. This week we saw new all-time record highs in markets all over the country. I'm going to give a bunch of them to you towards the end of the report, like I always do. It's just a very, very impressive everything. We've got this cattle on feed report coming out Friday. Your Urner Barry estimates are inventories on feed July the 1st are going to come out, they expect, at 99.1. Sounds like a lot. We know, and that's not the weights, that's the number of head in there. So we know there's a lot of beef in there, but that's just the heavier weights. I can't believe we've got that many cattle on feed still compared to a year ago. Placements in June, they've got those at 98.1%. Have we really been placing that many cattle? Of course, our feeder cattle auctions were bigger in June. Auction receipts up 13.5%. Those weighing over 600 pounds that were sold up nearly 22%. But I've told you guys before, people take cattle to the sale when the market's really, really good or really, really bad. And a lot more people have been taking their cattle to the auction than what normally do. Like I said before, you know, they don't have the gall to ask the country buyers what they might bring in the sale barn. And we're seeing that, you know, even in the Flint Hills region, and there's all kinds of demand for those green yearlings out there, but you're seeing more of them come into the sales than we typically do because the market is so crazy high. But your marketings in June, they've got those up at 96.1%, which actually sounds pretty good, as light as our slaughter has been. I mean, they've just been slashing this slaughter, guys. But it'll be interesting to see as we get closer to Friday. Talk about your board on Tuesday. August live cattle futures were down a quarter at 224.97. October was down 50 cents at 221.12. Now those are trying to line up with a Southern Plains fat cattle market that's at 230 and a Northern Plains that's at 240. So they're falling further behind, and but still that bit lower that it's still sitting. It could coax some basis jumpers there, but we hope they hold at least steady this week, if not gain a little bit more ground. Your back months on live cattle were down 10 cents to up 52, so not much change there on the back months. August feeder cattle futures up 67 cents at 328.57. It was launching out there past your index levels, but your real-time index level came up and pretty much met that new feeder cattle quote for August spot feeder cattle contracts, and so it's running right in line. Of course, your CME cash feeder cattle index is always running day and a half behind. September feeder cattle up 87 cents at 328.57. Your back months on feeder cattle up 90 to up 137. Look at your grains. December new crop corn down 4.5 cents a bushel at 4.18 a bushel. Beans down a half cent a bushel at 10.25.5. And your hard red winter wheat for September up 7.5 cents a bushel at 5.33 1/4. Your fat cattle trade on a direct basis out of your 5-area feeding region has not started yet. The only thing that they've quoted at all of being sold is Iowa sold some late Monday at 240, which would have been right in line with where they were selling late in the week last week. So no change there, and no sales at all out of Nebraska, Kansas, or Texas. But we did have our brick and mortar fat cattle auction, the biggest one in the country and the best test of the market earlier in the week in a competitive nature, with buyers bidding and auctioneer haggling it out and the cattle speaking for themselves. Stockman's livestock market in Yankton, South Dakota had 1,100 head in overnight, ended up with 2,000 head of fed cattle for their auction. Conventional fed cattle sold 238 to 246 1/4, and that was fully steady. So the program cattle and spots did sell higher, but Gary Marks told me the program cattle that they had on hand actually needed more feed, and so the program cattle weren't great pickings, but they went after them from 242 to 258. That's pretty impressive for the program cattle. The buyers were not quite as active. Of course, they had a breakdown at Tyson, Dakota City on Monday. They were out of the market. He said it had another order buyer that was out of the market, and we're going to feel that a little bit in our fat cattle trade this week. But still, pretty good trade there at Yankton, South Dakota at Stockman's Livestock on their fed cattle auction. Let's talk about your box beef cutout values. They were mixed. Choice cuts were up 43 cents at 372.50, and selects down 211 at 347.94, getting a choice select spread like we would normally see here in the middle of grilling season. But I tell you what, that's just a spot trade. They trade most of those things way out front, and on a formula type basis, it's really hard to get a handle on that. Slaughter, for the first 2 days of the week, they're falling behind fast. Of course, one thing is because of that Dakota City plant being backed up there. But they had 217,000 estimated cattle slaughter through Tuesday. That was 13,000 less than last week at this point, 22,000 less than a year ago at this point, and they may have the smallest non-holiday slaughter for this week than they've had in forever. If it's under 550,000, it will sure do that. Talk about what else is going on. Performance Livestock Analytics. Their performance beef software combines feeding and input costs to create a professional, accurate invoice at the touch of a button. The data captured with Performance Beef also enables you to generate closeouts and break-evens within seconds. Go to performancelivestockanalytics.com and check it out, guys. Talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index after your sales had closed on Tuesday through DVAuction was $328.25. That was up another $1.51 from the end of Monday's trade there. So still going up. Like I said earlier, your CME cash feeder cattle index sitting down there at 326.83. Big sales on Wednesday. Don't forget OKC West. They'll have a lot of cattle. Parsons, Kansas. They're going to have 8 loads blue stem Flint Hills cattle coming through their sale, and you'll have an opportunity to buy them. You don't always get opportunities to buy those cattle. That would be a good one. They're on DVAuction.com. Check them out. How about your sales on Tuesday? Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma had 3,500 head. Feeder steers were $5 to $9 higher, with spots as much as $18 higher. Steer calves were just unevenly steady. All classes of heifers sold $4 to $9 higher. It was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Livestock Handling Equipment's stick-out sale of the day. Look at this automated marker report through Cattle Market Central. Look at your best tested weight groups. They're towards the heavy end there on the steers, but they had 211 head of 5-weight steer calves in Beaver. They averaged 542 pounds with a weighted average price of $391.73. There were 305 head of the 7-weight steers, averaged 747 at $343.56. There were 330 head of the 8-weight steers. They averaged 864 at $325.79, and 746 head of 9-weight feeder steers at Beaver County Stockyards averaged $936 with a weighted average price of $320.91. Look at some of the heifers. They had 154 head of 6-weight heifers averaging 639 pounds at $331.29, and 394 head of 7-weight feeders heifers at Beaver County Stockyards averaged $721 with a weighted average price of $330.18. I'm going to give you several individual quotes that were very impressive all over the country, and you guys send them to me, and I like it when you do send them to me, but I can't get them all on here. I try to get the biggest and the best and the highest for where they're at and everything like that. I can't promise to get them all, but I try to get most of them, guys. How about Flint Hills Stockyards in St. Mary's, Kansas? They sold 63 steers, weight 815 for $336.50. That would be pretty smoky, guys. About Kingsville Livestock Auction, just west central part of Missouri there, just south and east of Kansas City a little ways. 66 head of 776 pound steers at Kingsville bring $352. Thought that was quite a smoker there. How about Fallon Livestock out in Fallon, Nevada? They had some light heifers that sold awfully high. 119 head of 444-pound heifers bring 477. That's high. How about Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky? That's way out east, guys. Through the ring there, 60 head of steers weighed 855 at 331.80. That's higher than they are right in the shadow of the feedlot's feed mill, guys, out this way. How about Unionville Livestock Market in Unionville, Missouri? They had that special I was telling you back a few visits ago. They had some very impressive quotes. How about the Brundage steers? 83 head of those weighed 602 at 416.25. Wow. But they also had the Rockin' R's in there from Lucerne, Missouri. Those backgrounded steers, they have them just every few weeks. And man, they handle a lot of cattle, those guys do. They had 5 loads of those steers in there, 304 head of them. Average on the loads was $875. Average price $327.55. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrocin No BS top quotes for the day come out of Kimball Livestock Exchange, and these are just unbelievable. Kimball's has a great sale there in kind of south central South Dakota there. But what about a Brad and Ashley Eufen cattle? They had 69 head of steers weighed 566 at 444.50. But the top quote, in my opinion, anywhere on Tuesday was the Paul Erickson and Sons cattle. He had 238 head of 1,078-pound steers, bring 314.50. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.
My name is Tanner Stuckey. I've been with Tiffany Cattle Company for 13 years now. We have 3 operations, and I oversee all 3 of them. We are about a 98% custom feed yard. Because of our location, we do get to feed some of the best cattle around. Would be some home-raised calves right off the Flint Hills. Since we had purchased this grow yard in Allen, Kansas 2 years ago, we've dabbled in a lot of cattle from the sale barns like Oklahoma City, even Virginia, and we still will start some calves for some customers that are local. Therapies since last December has become part of our operation for incoming cattle. We don't know a lot of the background of these cattle coming out of the sale barn. Sometimes they haven't been weaned yet, and so we like to use the therapies with the first processing. When your cattle are satisfied and content, they will eat more and they will stay healthy longer.
Well, definitely before these cattle wouldn't have been all up here at the bunks. I believe the therapies has settled them in. It lowers their stress on them. They're going to eat better, they're going to gain faster, and less sickness if they're not stressed out.
So in return, they accept all of our vaccines, sometimes our mass treatment shots. You're still going to have some pulls. It's not the fix-all. And cattle still have the potential to break for you after those first 30 days. But I believe we have set a good foundation for our cattle in the first 30 days.
I think they like it because you can see almost immediate results even before you take the cattle back to the pens. I think it kicks in quick enough that as you take them back, they're wanting to see the bunks, which is good for us because it's less work, less pulls.
Some of our other yards, you know, we have fed for the same customers for the last 10 years. I know their cattle. Sometimes cattle can come in a little wild, long haul cattle. Those types of cattle get therapies to help those settle in better. And we have also adapted that a lot of our sick cattle, you know, by the time a cowboy pulls them from their pen, drives them to a hospital, and then either getting returned to the hospital or returning to the home pen, I believe that's a lot of stress on the animal. So anything that's been treated gets therapies, and we have seen success with that as well.